Back in 2019, when the credits rolled on Midsommar, I was traumatized. And my only conclusion was that I absolutely hated this film. I think I remember even saying a silent vow to myself to never watch this film again.
You're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
A little dramatic, I know. But wow, this movie had such a strong effect on me, and this ritual cliff scene in specific was the final nail in that coffin. But time heals all things, and luckily much time has passed since I've seen this film. So recently I decided to revisit it and see if my brain hated it like I told myself back in 2019, or if maybe I could find a newfound appreciation for this film.
Welcome to Horga, and happy Midsommar.
And boy, did I, because as I'm sure you can imagine, there was a lot that went over my head when I first watched this film. But out of everything new I came to appreciate, there was something seemingly simple about Midsommar's visual language, something that would put to rest a long-standing internal argument I've recently had about modern digital cinematography.
So we're just gonna ignore the bed?
It's a bear.
You see, modern movies usually get a bad rep, with people saying they look bland, boring, and for the most part all the same, with their muddy shadows, grey highlights, and overly clean, curated aesthetic. And yeah, that is true for some films, but not all films. And we can't simply boil it down to bad CGI, green screens, or a color grade. Because there is something else going on here, something that has to do with the texture, feel, and immersiveness of a scene. That special magic of classic cinema that is often lacking from some of these modern films. And that visual magic, it's contrast. But not just contrast, in a technical sense that is, but a specific type of contrast that can only be achieved from certain compositional choices, lighting ratios, and production design decisions made there and then on set. I mean, the texture, the depth, the dimensionality that contrast can add to an image. To me, it truly is a defining factor in what makes a great image that further immerses me into the scene, into the world of a film. So how does contrast get lost in the visual narrative of some modern films? Now, one of the reasons for this can be traced back to the limitations of film's dynamic range and low light sensitivity. Because these limitations meant that often scenes had to be lit entirely from the ground up, with sometimes sets being built entirely just for the sole purpose of lighting a scene in accordance with film's limitations. But over the last decade or two, with recent advancements in digital camera technology, we have more dynamic range and low light sensitivity than we know what to do with. And this allows us to film in basically any challenging lighting scenario. You can just turn your camera on, point it in any direction you want, and just accept whatever lighting is there. And so the thought process about how to light and add contrast to a scene can shift from an absolute necessity to more of an afterthought. And if lighting is an afterthought, whether artificial or natural, then a lot of that emotional intentionality that comes from working within a strict set of limitations can be lost. Now, is this a bad thing? No, of course not. I mean, we have so many incredible films shot on digital that capture that similar magic of classic cinema. And sure, this is due to many other hugely important factors like focal length, depth of field, location, and subject matter. But we cannot deny that a deep understanding of contrast is fundamentally important to a film's visual language. And that is precisely where Midsommar comes in. Because when I watched Midsommar back in 2019, I had all these preconceived expectations of what a horror film should look and should feel like. You see, the horror genre is often filled with deep contrast and dark nights to obscure violence and leave most of the horror up to the imagination. But here in Midsommar, most of the film takes place in the flat, almost log-like exteriors of midday Sweden. The inherent casualness from this intentionally bland aesthetic, for me, perfectly mimics the normality of life for the Horga. Because for them, a ritual like the Ättestupa is perfectly normal. And this low contrast visual language throughout the film that we have been subject to up until this point has been reassuring us that we should accept the Ättestupa just as the Horga do. But as the ritual begins and the music starts to swell and the long, slow, creeping zooms bring us closer and closer to the horror that is about to unfold, we just simply cannot accept it as normal. Which only makes this scene that much more difficult to watch. And that is the beautiful visual trap of Midsommar. Please consider liking and subscribing, and thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.